Great, thank you, Parker and Judy and Lori, for setting the stage for me to be able to talk about GridSeer. GridSeer is a recent graduate from our program. I do want to emphasize when I say graduate, think of this as a teenager that still comes home for laundry and food, okay? So it's like halfway out the door, okay? So let me now talk a little bit about the problem that GridSeer solves. And it's highlighted here in this headline in the Wall Street Journal, which points out essentially that green energy is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it decarbonizes the grid and it creates a certain amount of resilience at certain times. It's a curse because it's actually really hard to manage. And I'll explain that a little bit more here with this idealized depiction of the grid. On the left-hand side, you have a mix, let's say, of energy generating resources. On the right-hand side, you have a mix of energy users. Ideally, this is balanced perfectly at all times. The problem you have, especially as you introduce green energy, is that that doesn't happen. And in fact, it's largely a result of weather patterns that are getting more extreme. And this is where the blessing and curse issue comes in. As it becomes harder and harder to manage this mix of energy resources, you introduce more risk into the system. Risk means you have to purchase reserves, and that costs money, okay? And this is really where GridSeer comes in. GridSeer is a software and analytics platform that helps to manage, especially green energy, and reduces risk. It improves the reliability, and most importantly, it reduces cost. I've done a number of startups in my career, and it's always the challenge when you're done, is like, what am I gonna do next? I actually went home to my wife and I said, I'm never doing another startup in my life, okay? Until Dalia Patina Echeverry walked into my office, and here's the story she told me that day, which was pretty cool. So they have a software and analytics platform that addresses three things. It addresses the weather-based risk, it addresses intrinsic asset risk in the form of a digital twin, and it also looks at all the historical data of that system. And they combine that in a forecast generator, which is an artificial intelligence engine that predicts and also traces errors. And this they use to forecast all possible states of what might happen tomorrow, and in fact, a few weeks down the road. This is really important because current approaches to modeling model what's likely to happen tomorrow, and then what's the variance to that likely thing that's gonna happen. Her software models every possible state of tomorrow and assigns a probability for that state to happen. And this allows them to manage risk much, much better than before, all right? The other thing they do is every time they model, they also measure what actually happens, and they turn that back into a learning system. So I think this is pretty cool software, right? It's actually much more complicated than I could even imagine. So I don't know all the details of it, but what really caught my attention that day is that they actually applied it to Duke Energy. And they were able to demonstrate with over years of data that their approach to modeling the risk could save Duke Energy as much as 2 to 5%. But what was more important, actually, was it's not just Dalia. She has a whole team of researchers that work with her. I've highlighted here two of them, Dimitris Floros, who is a postdoc in her lab. He is an expert in machine learning. And then Mauricio Hernandez, who wrote his dissertation on this software. And by the way, they've just come back from Dubai, where they were selected out of 3,000 applicants to be part of Prototypes for Humanity. And when they were at the conference, they were selected top 10 at the conference out of 100 groups that were selected. So this is another validation that this is a really, really strong technical team. So we have great technology, we have a great science team. What do we do next? We start wrapping some business people around it. Fortunately, in the Durham area, since I've been doing startups there for a long time, I know a lot of people who've done deep tech for a long time, and we're able to put a team around them relatively quickly. And we started working with the research group to say, hey, look, let's not think about research, let's think about use cases. I've listed a few of them here, but the key point is Not what can you do next with the technology, but with the technology that you have right now, what problems can we solve for real customers? And really got interested in commercial industrial applications, EV networks, data centers, virtual power plants, and microgrids. And as we looked into the markets for those, what we discovered is they're huge and really growing rapidly. A great area, I think, to start a software company. The other thing we did is we went out and talked to potential customers, and we discovered a lot of interest in this technology. I've noted here a quote from one of those: "We need your help on how we can predict our cooling and heating loads when they're influenced by things we can't control." This particular customer spends $100 million a year on energy, and we believe we can save them $1 million a year. We are targeting our first product launch in March of 2025, and at that point we expect to start to sell to customers. So thank you very much for listening to me tonight. If you're interested in GridSeer, you can go to our website, gridseer.com, and with that, I will hand it back to Lori.